And I'm back with what may or may not be my last video from Spain, depending on how motivated I get tonight. But today's is going to be about line graphs. Line graphs can be really useful for a couple things. One is trends over time, and also for comparing two quantitative variables. I have a little different data set for this one. This is from a study we did several years ago where we created a game playable on Mac and Windows computers that students could use to learn about fractions and indigenous culture in Great Plains before the Europeans came, both at the same time, because there has always everywhere been math, right? So this data set is a set of fractions questions completed by students on North Dakota reservations over a period of years. I was interested in knowing how many problems were completed each year by these students, and also how many were attempted, and how many were correct. I was interested to know how many problems were attempted each year by these students, and also how many problems were answered correctly. What does this graph tell you? That's the whole point of doing all of these statistical graphics is to kind of explore your data, to get some ideas about it. Look at this a minute and ask yourself, what can you learn from this graph, and what else would you like to know? I will sit here and think while you think about it. A couple of things that I noticed, the gap between the number of problems correct and the number of problems attempted, right? This is the number of problems that they tried. They could try the same problem more than once. This is the number of problems they tried. This is the number of problems that got correct. From 2014 to 2017, this gap really narrowed. And so that's one of the things that I noticed, that as the number of problems correct and the number of problems attempted difference got smaller. And so I want to know, is that because students are doing better or because they're just attempting the easier problems and not trying the harder ones? I could look at that answer diving deeper into the data, but looking at the graph itself doesn't tell me that. So that's one of the good things about statistical graphics is they could maybe bring up some questions that then you would look at in more in-depth statistical analysis. Maybe we'll do that in this course. The number of problems attempted dropped dramatically from 2015 to 2017 and went up a little and dropped again. That's obvious. Both the number of problems attempted and the number correct. Why did they go down? Well, I actually do know the answer to that question because back in 2014 and 2015, a lot of schools were using they were using computers, desktop computers, so Windows computers primarily. And we made these games for Windows. And over the next several years, Chromebooks took over. And that's why you saw this drop because fewer schools were using the games. And that's why we switched to a lot more games playable on the web and Chromebook. But you wouldn't be able to tell that from the data. You'd just be able to tell that the number of problems the students were going down. And they'd ask about that. And here it went up. What happened was there was a pandemic and we came out with a game on iPads. And so some kids were playing it at home on iPads.